Hello, we will be speaking to you today about the Pasadena, Texas plant disaster.
On October 23, 1989, Phillips 66 figure 1 on the left went through a disaster that affected hundreds of people. In the polyethylene plant of Phillips 66, there was a valve that released about 85,000 pounds of flammable gas. When this gas was released, it was ignited and caused an explosion so massive that there was debris found 6 miles away from the site. Figure 2 shows a roadmap of the explosions that took place inside the complex. The original explosion started at Reactor 6 and then made its way to the other reactors. This caused many explosions after the initial explosion and a series of fires to start throughout the plant. The fire was out of control, and the fire department was not able to control it until after 10 hours. The results of this disaster were 23 casualties and 314 injured.
Inadequate emergency prevention measures and maintenance in combination with incompetence and extreme human error led to the catastrophic explosions. 6 critical flaws contributed to the Phillips 66 disaster. 1. The tubes of compressed air that switched the valve from open to closed position were to be disconnected during maintenance. Instead of being disconnected, they were unknowingly reversed. 2. Surrounding buildings had improper ventilation to prevent the intake of gases in case of emergency. 3. There was no fixed gas detection on the plant. 4. The firefighting water supply and pumps were not properly maintained, and the available pumps were damaged in the first explosion. 5. A single block valve instead of a double block and bleed valve was used. 6. The space between buildings was small enough to promote instead of prevent gas spread and explosions. Overall, the lack of emergency shutoff, gas ventilation, gas detection, and firefighting systems failed to compensate for the accidental open-closed tube reversal on a critical valve. The mistakes made by human error were due to incompetency and distraction, while the design of the reactors, buildings, and safety protocols did not follow required or suggested measures.
The Phillips disaster was an extremely avoidable event that could have been prevented by implementing and adhering to proper maintenance and safety protocols. One of the most glaring issues of the disaster was that Phillips' corporate safety procedures and standard industry practice required the use of a double valve or blind flange insert whenever a chemical line in hydrocarbon service was opened. The plant, however, did not follow this protocol, so there is no safety backup. Additionally, there was a safety procedure in place that required air hoses to valves be disconnected prior to maintenance work, but this was not followed either. The disaster could have been prevented by adhering to both protocols. Lastly, OSHA had not completed a comprehensive safety inspection of the plant since 1975, which could have held Phillips or its managers responsible for implementing adequate safety procedures and maintenance processes that would leave the plant less vulnerable to disaster. The accident could have been prevented by OSHA citing Phillips for its safety violations and/or shutting down the plant until the violations were rectified.
Seconds after the blaring alarm, an earthquake rating 3.5 on the Richter scale shook residents of Pasadena, Texas. Terrified workers ran for their lives to escape the fire. Overall, the death toll was 23 workers and 300 injured. Yet, the company attempts to mitigate its liability in its reports. Workers at the Phillips 66 chemical complex are outraged by the company's handling of a devastating event. There is union unrest in the form of 200 pending lawsuits and multi-million-dollar fines for safety violations. Families of the workers that died in the explosion are angered by the company's obvious shirking of responsibility. The company unveiled plans to erect a memorial for those that lost their lives. However, many workers do not believe the gesture to be genuine, claiming the company only proposed the plan after receiving an employee petition. Tom Gentry, president of Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Local Chapter, said, "There's been disappointment over how the company had reacted to the whole incident. The company hasn't done enough to improve the situation. This may be in reference to the company's multiple safety violations prior to the explosion. During the 10 years prior to the explosion, OSHA conducted 92 investigations of other Phillips sites, 24 of which were in response to a major incident. Yet, the company has not addressed these violations. Overall, the public perception of the Phillips 66 chemical complex explosion is negative." Thank you for your time.